Hey everyone, Greta here, and welcome to today's episode of Let's Chat. So today I'm going to share with you all the tough stuff, like the dark side of being a yoga teacher. I'm sure that there are a lot of information out there or posts on social media saying how wonderful it is to become a yoga teacher and all that stuff, which is partially true. First of all, I just want to say I really enjoy what I do. I'm really fortunate to be able to do a job that I honestly and truly love and adore. I've been working other jobs, and it didn't turn out the way that I hoped it did. So those were my past lives, and so this is my present life being a yoga teacher. And I've been teaching yoga for more than a decade now. A little bit more than a decade. So, and I'm still enjoying every bit of it, even though there are days that I have had burnouts. But in general, it is truly a blessing. Having said that, I'm just going to share with you another realistic side of being a yoga teacher. And I'm not going to speak on behalf of anybody else except for myself. So these are just my experiences. So if you talk to another yoga teacher, you might get a whole different set of responses. Okay, so that's just me. So I am a full-time yoga teacher. I'm now a freelancer. I've been freelancing for almost 2 years now. Wow, time flies. Before that, I used to work at Pure Yoga for 4.5 years. So if you don't know, if you're listening to this podcast outside Hong Kong, you might not know, or outside like Asia, you might not know what Pure Yoga is. Pure Yoga is like a really big yoga studio chain, so it has a lot of different locations, and I used to be one of their teachers of more than 100. So I was like that for about 4.5 years, and before that I was freelancing for about 2 years full time, and then before that I was teaching as a part-time and a cover teacher. So that was it. Okay, so a lot of posts out there saying how wonderful it is to be a yoga teacher. You get to do yoga all day, you get to drink green juice or smoothies all day and all that stuff. You get to wear yoga leggings the whole day. So those are the good stuff. The tough stuff, so for me, is one of them is doing peak poses without warm-up. When I teach, I don't do much physical practice. I would do warm-ups with them, maybe the first, how should I say this? Well, okay, I would do warm-ups with them, with the practitioners. And then if it's a flow, I would flow a little bit and then maybe do one side, and then when they do the other side, I would walk around and make sure that doing everything okay. And if it's not a flow class, let's say if it's just drills and warm-ups, then I would demo for 1 or 2 sets and then ask them to do the entire thing. So for me, when I have to demo a peak pose, it is usually without much warm-up, or half, or maybe even 0 warm-up, and I would have to demo. So for my body, it has to be ready at all times. And that is tough because, teaching for so many hours or for so long per day, my body becomes tired, and it also becomes, tight. And being able to do the peak pose effortlessly, and also being able to explain when I'm doing the shape does require a lot of effort. Some teachers, they don't demo themselves. They would ask the other practitioners to demo. Sorry, I don't do that because when I'm actually doing the shape, I know when to pause. I know when I need to pause, when I need to explain a little bit more, and also when I am demoing and when I'm explaining, I'm also feeling and also sensing what the crowd needs more of. And then when I demo, then I would actually go into further details in parts that I think needs more explanation. So if I have somebody else demoing, then I might miss it. And also, I don't really encourage this this culture of having other people demo, except if it's like a group discussion of, checking out different bodies with the same shape, then that's different. But if I want to demo, like let's say the pose that we're trying out today is, let's say it's a crow pose, I would demo, I would explain. I wouldn't get my students to do it because I used to be raised in that kind of culture and I didn't like the vibe. Felt like the practitioners who are being appointed to demo, in some way, shape, or form, there was like a hierarchy, and people who are not demoing felt like, the people who are doing the demo, they're much more advanced, they know more or whatever. Never like that. And also from a personal experience, I was asked to demo one time, and it was a pose that the teacher clearly knew I couldn't execute it well enough. Like the teacher needed it to be, picture perfect, and I was nowhere near that. For some reason, the teacher got me to demo, and it was in the middle of a huge class. And being a good student, I did the demo. And of course, I didn't execute it the way that they wanted it to be. And the teacher at the time asked in front of the entire crowd to me this question. They said, "Is this the best you can do?" And at the time, I was like, yeah, I'm proud. I was proud of what I could do because I did my best. So it was like a bit of quite a negative experience. Didn't like that. And also, I didn't want to create this hierarchy. I didn't want anybody to feel more superior than anybody else, because for me, that's not yoga. We're all practitioners. We are all on different paths. Okay, and that's why I don't ask people to demo the peak pose, quote unquote. I do all the demo, and that's it. So if I have to do it without warm up, that's quite an issue. So that's why I always teach poses or shapes that I am quite confident of without doing much warm up. So that's why you rarely see me teach back bends. And that is fine. Another thing is doing crazy stuff, or maybe just simply teaching when you're on your menstrual cycle. For me, when I'm on my menstrual cycle, I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay on the couch, with a huge blanket around me and just kind of just hang out there, not teach, not do anything. I don't want to heal anybody because I need healing myself. I don't want to teach anybody because I don't want to teach. I don't want to exert my energy. However, the period might come like in the middle of a practice, in the middle of a class, or maybe in between classes, or maybe before I teach, and I just cannot cancel the class like that. So life has to go on. And there was a time when my period came at the beginning of the day, and then later that night I had to teach an arm balance, the peacock pose, my Urasan, where the elbows basically had to dig right into my lower abdomen and for me to fly. So that was really bad, but I managed to pull through. So on days where the menstrual cycle hits, you still have to teach. That is quite exhausting. So that is one of the darker side of being a yoga teacher. On days like those, I wish that I would be teaching more gentler classes, like less physical demanding classes. Let's just put it that way. Yeah, that's how my classes are, and that's kind of my life. Another thing is it's a lot of manual labor, and this occurs to yoga teachers who do physical adjustments, and that's me. I also teach a lot of inversions, so sometimes you have to hold people up. Sometimes with less effort, sometimes with more effort. It really depends on that practitioner's ability to balance in the inversion. And also other times when not just inversions but shapes, that some practitioners might require a little bit more effort to get into it. So that effort might come from you if the practitioner can't do it on themselves properly. So often that is quite labor intensive. And because when you are adjusting that individual, sometimes if you have to do it very fast, sometimes you kind of lose the connection with your own body. So that could become quite exhausting and quite strenuous in the muscles as time passes. So that is something that kind of accumulates. So a lot of times when I come back home from the practice, I would stretch and just kind of release that tension, either with like massage balls or foam rollers or just simple stretches with the mat. So that is really, really important. Another one is keeping my own practice. I remember when I first became a full-time yoga teacher, one day I bumped into a yoga teacher, one of my yoga teachers, and they reminded me that I must not forget my own practice. I must keep my own practice. At the time, I was like, are you crazy? Of course I would keep my own practice. This is insane, However, as time passed, I realized that those words are so damn true. It's so easy to miss the practice. But then that also kind of make my practice evolve. First of all, I need to say I don't practice with my students. Again, maybe in the beginning, the warm up, the sun salutation, I do one set with them just to kind of guide them, making sure that everyone's the rhythm is the same, the energy is the same, and then I'll go and adjust people. I'll go and monitor and look at bodies. And then for flows, I would do maybe one side, maybe one or two shapes, and then I'll go around. I never practice. It's because for me, teaching is very different from practicing. When I practice, everything is on me, myself, and I. When I teach, it's the total opposite. So these are conflicts. They can never, at least in my life, coexist. So when I teach, I dedicate 100% of my attention to my students. When I practice, it's all to me. So that is why I have to dedicate my own time to practice. At the time, it was purely Ashtanga. It was like 100% Ashtanga. And I realized that, oh my gosh, I can't. As the way that I teach, the times that I teach, it's quite hard to maintain purely just Ashtanga. Often there are times when I just do not have the energy to do the whole Ashtanga practice. Sometimes I would still keep it. I would do walking through instead of jumping through. I would walk back instead of jump back. So I would need to modify my practice. And a lot of times I do like chair yoga, I do myofascial release, I do yin, all those other stuff. So right now, my yoga practice is actually a lot more holistic. And a lot of times I don't do physical practice anymore. I do more meditation, I do more breathing, I do more mindfulness practice, like in stillness, more than in action. Of course, there are days when I'm like, you know what, I need that energy. I need to do 1,000 handstands. I need to do that, crazy, crazy intensive, but really, really fun Ashtanga practice. I'll go for it. But I don't limit myself to any one particular lineage anymore, and also the time. Sometimes it's 2 hours. Other times, 15 minutes. So I just try to incorporate some time for my personal growth, personal healing, personal practice, whatever name you call it, I would keep it. But it is difficult. It is difficult. It's also very easy to get burned out, especially if you're so clinging on to one particular lineage. That was one time I was so clinging on to Ashtanga that there was no way I would do any other things. And then I ended up having a very, very long burnout. It's because all the classes I was teaching was very physically demanding, and also my practice, I forgot to switch off. It was hard to take it easy during my practice. I was going boom, boom, boom all the way. So, and that kind of led to my burnout. So now I practice with more intelligence. Yeah. And I mean, I truly admire people who can still, keep the Ashtanga practice, so regularly. Some people still do it daily, like 6 days a week, that kind of stuff. Amazing. I wish I had that energy, but not now. Hopefully, maybe later, I will be able to resume my very regular Ashtanga practice. However, I still really like what I do now, a mix of everything. So, I mean, there are things that happen when time comes. So, yeah, let's just go with the flow. Speaking of burnouts, just going to go quickly into that burnout. It happened when I started teaching it here. Yeah. It was the burnout was up and down. I think, I don't remember when, maybe because I was teaching on a very regular basis at the time. So from switching from a freelancer to teaching at a very regular basis, a lot of big classes. So, and I was trying to adjust to this new vibe and energy, and that caused my burnout. Burnout are easy. Burnouts are very easy to happen if you don't take care of yourself. So you need to really balance out your schedule so that you don't forget yourself. And I think having your own practice and having burnouts, they kind of go hand in hand. Yeah, and also the practice doesn't necessarily mean that it must be on a mat. It could read a book. Or actually, you know what, it's more having like a rest time, not just practice, but having your own rest time is important. You need to schedule it. If not, it's very easy to have burnouts. For now, now in my life, I am currently having burnouts very frequently. It's because a lot of things are happening. And a lot of things are still happening and will happen. So that is why I have to monitor myself very, very cautiously. So I guess in a way it's good that I'm a yoga teacher, so I can always kind of jump out of the box and jump out of every frame and just look at my life or my schedule as a third person very, very objectively, and just know what to do to balance things out. So that is another thing. And also one last thing, which I find that it's very hard to deal with, is actually, it's the second last, to notice the boundaries. As a yoga teacher, a lot of people would come to you and ask about your opinion. They would come up to you and ask, they have lower back pain, what should they do? They cannot sleep, what should they do? A lot of things. And sometimes the question might start off, the first question or the conversation might start off very innocently. Or not necessarily innocently, but just within the area that a yoga teacher could answer. But as a conversation develops, maybe it would just branch off into the direction that it's beyond the yoga teacher's ability and their role to answer. Let's say it might start off with, a person coming up to you and say they have some, tight neck and shoulder issue. Okay, maybe a stretch here, maybe stretch there would help. I don't know. Maybe that would help. But then as this conversation develops, maybe that person would say, oh, you know what, I've not been eating well either because of this neck thing, or I may be not sleeping well because of this neck thing, So it might actually develop to a direction that it's beyond what a yoga teacher can do, because a yoga teacher is more about yoga. But if it deals with more like emotional issues, mental issues, or maybe nutritional level, whatever, or maybe still based on the physical level, but more in depth, then the yoga teacher needs to know when that line has crossed and when to say, oh, you know what, I can't tell you anymore because I don't know. If you have any further questions, you might want to ask maybe your doctor or find a physio, or maybe maybe seek therapy. So it's very easy to keep the conversation going until you've reached a point you're like, oh my gosh, I've passed the boundaries without even knowing. So all these conversations, you must be very, very mindful of where it's going to lead and where it's leading and when to actually stop. Final thing, stress. Yes, it's funny. It's very, very conflicting that, yoga is supposed to de-stress people, but being a full-time yoga teacher, especially when you're a freelancer, it could be stressful. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm very fortunate to have my family to support me. However, being a full-time freelancer, you have classes to teach, and if the numbers start to drop, you'll be like, what's happening? Maybe a person stops coming to class. You're like, what's happening? Or maybe a class, on a regular schedule is having nice response for a while, and then all of a sudden starts to drop. The attendance rate starts to drop. Then it is concerning. For me, I would always plan and think and just see what would work, what works, what do not work. All this constant, fidgeting could become stressful. Of course, again, it just depends on that particular individual yoga teacher. Some people are like, oh, it's okay, just go with the flow. But other teachers like me, for example, actually, when I was working at Pure, I also had a bit of stress, especially during the times when COVID hit. Should I do more online classes so people don't forget me? There are a lot of other yoga teachers at Pure that are so good that, when business resumes, that maybe other people would go to other yoga classes and not my classes anymore. What would happen? So that always have existed before, but then, working at Pure, because I was a full-time yoga teacher, I was a full-time staff. So, my paycheck, I would still get paid anyways, except for more or less, depending on, how hard you really wanted to work. But being a freelancer, every single student means you have more income, right? And just that's being totally realistic about it. So if the students' number starts to drop, you'll be like, okay, what's this? Oh, it's summertime. Oh, right, I totally forgot because I don't have human kids. So yeah, summertime, first COVID. So first COVID free, not first COVID free. People traveling, stuff like that. So yeah, numbers would drop. And then sometimes it's public holiday, so that's why numbers drop. But then other times, public holidays, the numbers would rise, would boom. So there are a lot of things that I also need to take care of. And the stress that also comes with it. So, there are a lot of things that um, yoga teacher is, being a yoga teacher is really, really fun. But then ultimately, it's still a job. When it becomes a job, there will be stress. Not saying that it's so stressful that I hate it. No, there's always a balance when there's a job. When you're serious about it, there's always stress. You just need to know how to balance things out. And just being more realistic about, teaching yoga and this industry. So that's it. Again, just sharing. I still love teaching yoga. There's a lot of things happening, exciting things happening soon. So this month of September, is going to be another very busy month for me. In a way, I'm actually happy that I am not teaching as many classes because there's a lot of things happening. And I'll be taking a training myself as well as an online training, 50 hours. I've yet to sign up. I will sign up. So yeah, I'm super, super excited of all the things that would turn out later on. So yeah, thanks for listening to my blurb. Hope you don't find it too boring, and let's chat again soon. Take it easy.